Well, good morning, everyone. Hope everybody is having a good day, a good week. We are recording this session just to give you a heads up. And Colleen, who I see on the call, she is going to be handling our text or chat box. So if you have anything that you'd like to add there, she will take a look at that as the meeting progresses here. Before we get started, I do want to this is a public service announcement. I do want to make sure that everyone on this call and everybody that you know, that come November that you vote. Our next meeting, which we'll talk about as this meeting progresses here a little bit, but we're going to be meeting after Election Day. So my plea to you is get out there and vote. Please do your civic duty. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, the main topic for this meeting is going to be called risk management. And while I indicated in the preview video on this isn't really a sexy topic. However, I think you guys as agents need to be aware of what not only the company is doing to protect transactions, but also what you can do as you get involved with buyers and sellers and things that you can share with them to protect them in a transaction. Because as you will find out here, we are living in new age where all kinds of stuff is happening behind the curtain that we aren't even aware of. And our IT department does a marvelous job for us. But once again, there's things that you can do and the company is already doing. I'm going to share those things with you. So first up today, switch it up just a little bit. Home sale settlement services is up, and I believe Carrie is going to be talking prior to Sarah, if Sarah's going to chime in. So go ahead, Carrie.
Good morning, everyone. One topic that we just wanted to bring up was agreements of sales being written with a single person, but they're married. And then towards the end of the transaction, the other spouse is added, and what trickle-down effect that causes. It's a good question to ask your buyers if they are buying a property and they are married, but they are only putting one person on that agreement of sale. A good question to ask is, did you want your spouse on the deed? If they plan to be on the deed, they have to be on that agreement of sale as a buyer. When they are going on the deed, that makes them a buyer on the property, that makes them our insured. Even though they may not be on the full lender's documents, they may only be on the mortgage, not on the promissory note, it still makes them a buyer to the transaction. If you do an agreement of sale and you do find out that they do want to add their spouse onto the deed, or you find out that the lender is using them as what they call a non-borrowing spouse, we do need an addendum as soon as possible to that agreement of sale. We have to get that other spouse searched for any liens, and they need to be added to the title work. Also, if they aren't originally on and the lender doesn't know about it, they also need to have that spouse added, make sure they can add them to their loan as well. James or Dan, do you have anything you want to tag on to that?
Yeah, so kind of the same thing with what Carrie's saying. It's not just the spouse, it's any non-borrower that's going to be on the agreement of sale. So it can be a significant other. In some cases, it could be a parent or, again, a spouse. But so anyone that's going to be on the deed to the property, again, does need to be on the agreement of sale. In our world, they also need to be on the homeowner's insurance. And in some cases, and this is actually underwriter discretion, they may also have to be listed on the appraisal. So if we're a week out from settlement and we just find out that, we're adding a non-borrowing spouse. So again, they're just not on the loan, but they're going to be on the deed and mortgage. If we're going to be then adding them and we find this out like a week before settlement, we have to go back and update the homeowner's insurance. They also have to receive a copy of the closing disclosure. So now we need to get them to complete an electronic consent. And again, in some cases, they may need to be added to the appraisal because they're essentially considered an owner of that property. Then we need to go back to the appraiser and have an addendum done. And, especially with a situation where they need to be added to the appraisal, we're seeing appraisal turn times still take longer than normal. So if we need to reach out to an appraiser that needs to get us an addendum within, 1 or 2 or 3 days, in some cases, they may not be able to get that. So again, there's no problem with having a non-borrowing individual on the deed and title, but we just need to know that as soon as possible so we can make sure that everything else is in place and prepared properly on our end as well. If you have any questions as far as that, definitely reach out to James and myself, and we'll be happy to help you with that.
Can I just add into that real quick? So if you're going to have a non-borrowing party, part of your transaction, the best way to think about it, like Dan and Carrie said, is the agreement of sale and the deed must match. That's probably the best way to think about it. But I want to put out there, if you were on the deed, if you were not on the loan, the client still has to come to closing. Just because they're not on the loan doesn't mean they can't not sign. There will be documents that require their signature in order for the transaction to go through. So if you have a non-borrowing spouse or party that will be part of the transaction and not on the actual loan itself, they must attend closing. So keep that in mind as well.
Thanks, guys. And, I constantly say to not only agents in this office, but just agents in general when I'm doing some training sessions that, gosh, when you turn in stuff to a mortgage company or a title company early on, right after it goes under agreement, one of the things that you ought to be doing is sharing with the title company or sharing with the lender exactly what's going on if there are multiple people involved. And now's the time early on in the transaction to take care of these issues so that they, as you heard here, we get down to the 11th hour. While it can be done, just like we all know, the more we're scrambling around at the last second, the more likelihood for there to be mistakes to be made. So best early on in a transaction, put this stuff on the table, discuss it with your title people, your lender, so that everybody's aware. So thanks, appreciate it, very timely topic. And I know James White is on the call. And James, I apologize, I was not able to contact you. Do you have anything for the group this morning?
Yeah, I'll add on. I'll add on to that as well too. I always ask those questions just to make sure who's the owner of the property, because I know that can certainly matter for the documentation and can be different from who's getting the loan as well too. So I always make sure to get that information right up front too. And as I said too, if your buyer's getting insurance as well too at the last minute, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for us to get the documents, the evidence of insurance, and invoice out there as well too. So it might not be able to be done in 5 minutes, to tell you the truth, but we're usually pretty quick. So I just want to give you a heads up on that, because we did have a couple. I did have a couple of them asking for some things last minute in the past week or two, but we can always get it to them as quick as we can. It might not be in 5 minutes though. So.
Thanks, James. So everybody, a word to the wise here. Okay, thanks. Appreciate everybody's input on that. Okay, I did want to talk about LCAR's committees, LCAR being the Lancaster County Association of Realtors. I've been involved with LCAR literally for probably 25, 30 years. And I've served on a variety of different committees. I serve as a director now. a lot of people look at this as, hey, it's a waste of time. It's a time sucker. I go there, or I potentially could go there and spend an hour or two. I've always looked at it as an investment in time, in that I'm going to serve on a committee, and there might be 10 to 15 to 20 other people on this committee from other companies throughout our association. And you get to learn who they are. You get to see their personality. I think everybody comes to me as an agent with a problem in a transaction. Usually one of the very first questions I ask you is, who's the agent on the other side of the transaction? Now, the reason why I ask that is because in many instances, I know who that agent is because I've either been involved with a transaction in them in the past, or I've served on a committee, and 9 times out of 10, I'll know who we're dealing with and how to approach them. So not only are you giving of your time for the association that you belong to, but I believe over time you are actually going to help your business because it will make things go smoother. I know for a fact that there were transactions in the past that I was involved with that if I had multiple agreements and one of them was from an agent that I worked on a committee, and I know what their character is like, I know how they handle themselves and conducted themselves in our committee meeting, a lot of times they had a leg up on everybody else in the transaction because I'm telling you, it's much easier to work, as everybody knows, with somebody that you know versus somebody that you know will be an issue. So once again, I am going to put out with all the sales meeting material, sign-up sheets, and it's coming out here 2 days before it's actually due. Now, you've actually received copies of these through LCAR, but many people just set them aside. Please, I would highly encourage you, if you haven't ever served on a committee, please consider doing so the upcoming year, or if you have in the past, please consider getting on another committee in the future, okay? All right, we've had a really, really interesting year. I think everybody would agree with that. It's been a year in which we started out really, really strong, and then it fell off of a cliff, and then it came back like gangbusters, and we're still going really hot and heavy at this point in time. I know from talking with you, and I know from talking with our staff and all the people that are associated with our company, it's been really a trying year on a lot of different levels. We originally scheduled to have the event that's on your screen a couple of months ago, and we just weren't able to do it. I got my fingers crossed, both hands, both fingers, that we're going to have good weather in about a week and a half to 2 weeks, because you are looking at the individual who is washing cars. And I don't want to be freezing my little Tehukas off. Having said that, we're going to do it Wednesday, November 4th. This is actually the first Wednesday of the month. So this car wash and cookout is going to serve as our first monthly Zoom meeting, but it's going to be a car wash and cookout. You don't have to stay the whole time. The idea behind here is just swing in. We'll have it around the side of the building. I'll be washing cars there. I know our core service providers are going to be cooking hamburgers and hot dogs, maybe some ice cream and some other things, may even have a couple of adult beverages on the side here. But I wanted to make you aware, stop by, get your car washed. Just, you know, it's an opportunity to let your hair down a little bit with those who have gone through the same thing that you have this year. So I'll get additional announcement out, but I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware. Next meeting is actually going to be a car wash and cookout. Our open house social media results are in for September. While open houses have steadily come down as far as how many people are getting involved with them, we still get outstanding numbers, as you see here. We get outstanding numbers when they are posted on social media. And by the way, our company, as far as I know, in the Lancaster marketplace, is the only company that gets out open houses on social media, specifically Instagram and Facebook, you see the numbers here in front of you. Our average clicks, our click-through rates are 6 times greater than the national average. So you are getting incredible exposure if you are doing an open house. It is free. It doesn't cost anything. All you've got to do is sign up for an open house. It is automatically put into our pool of open houses that end up on social media. So once again, if you're going to do an open house on a listing, I would encourage you to get this flyer, which I'll get it out with the rest of the material. Get this flyer out to your sellers so they understand what you are doing for them to expose their property to the marketplace. Okay, the market statistics. I got these out last week, but I did want to spend a moment on them and just make sure that you're aware of what these numbers are and what they actually mean. The average sale price, September year over year, is actually up 17%. Now that is the biggest jump I have ever seen in a year over year. I don't think anybody's really surprised at this because as I'm hearing from you and you are experiencing things, you're getting involved with multiple offer situations with listings, or if you're working with a buyer, your buyer's in competition with, let's say, 10 other buyers, and things are going for well over list price in the vast majority of cases. So things are going up 17%. Now, I got to tell you, that can be scary. I mean, we look at that because if you own real estate, that's a good thing, but that's like overheating range. 17% is a lot. Now, part of what I put out this past week, I got a quick quote from Dan Rank, and I'll kind of paraphrase what Dan and I were talking about. The difference between this and the meltdown that occurred back in 2006, 2007 in the marketplace is that back in that time, mortgages were really easy to get. Qualification standards were really relaxed. There were a lot of subprime lending going on back then. Right now, if you go to Dan or James and get a mortgage, they're putting you through the regular qualification processes. You have got to qualify for a loan. So while the interest rates are at historic lows, which we'll talk about in a second, people still need to qualify for a loan. And in many instances, people are bringing lots of cash to the process whereby maybe they're buying a home for 300, they're getting a mortgage of 200. That was totally different than back in 2006, 2007, when, excuse me, when people were overextending themselves and in many instances getting 100% financing across the board. So kind of a two-edged sword here, but I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of what's going on in the marketplace as far as average sale price is concerned. Here's our listing inventory. Listing inventory is about the same as it was last year. It's just that we have more buyers in the market, as you see here, with the units that are sold, in that we have 16% more transactions that went to settlement this September versus the previous September. Our median days to sell a property is at 6 right now. It's less than a week. Once again, I don't think anybody is surprised at this, but to actually see it here in red and green numbers like you see here on this calendar, it's unbelievable that things are going this fast. Average interest rate continues to be at or right below 3%, which is good for buyers. So if you have buyers that are, once again, on the fence, get them in there, get them pre-qualified with James or Dan, and get them out there into the marketplace. The final slide that I'm going to show you here is our absorption rates. The absorption rates, as you see here, are also at historic lows. You see in some of these price point categories, we have less than a half a month or about a half a month worth of inventory on the market, which means that, you know, there could be 40 homes that sell, but if there's only 20 homes on the market, it causes for really increases in your sale prices. So if you're taking a listing in any of these categories, please make sure you get the, excuse me, please make sure you get the absorption rates in front of your seller so that they know what is happening in the market. Okay, I'm going to share with you some tips having to do with dot loop. Now, I probably won't make this a every meeting type of thing, but I get enough questions about dot loop and things that it can and can't do over the course of a month in talking with agents about their transactions. And in many instances, when I talk about something, this is the reaction I get. Geez, I didn't know dot loop could do that. And I kind of take it for granted that everybody knows the features that are in dot loop, but that's not necessarily the case. So I'm going to share one or two tidbits every time that I do this section about things that if you're not aware of, you could possibly do and increase how competitive you are in the marketplace as far as getting your agreements processed, but also once again, getting a leg up on that competition. So here's my first tip for you. There is a Facebook page called Home Sale Loopers. It's a closed group. You have to click on, I'd like to join the group, and then the administrators will get back in touch with you, usually within 24 hours, and they'll let you into the group. It's a great spot to put a question or an idea or a tip that you may have and share it with everybody who's part of the Home Sale Looper family. As you can see here, this is a private group. There are 589 members on this today. So if you're not a member of this group, I'd encourage you, get involved with it. Some of the administrators here are Jen Jones, who also takes care of a lot of our training. I know Kelly Miller hops on here and answers questions from people. So I would highly encourage you, get involved with this group. You'll get some really good insight on how to use dot loop. Now, a couple of things. Here's one question that came from Jesse Hirsch that I thought was really good because Jesse didn't know, and a lot of people that were in the comments below this had no idea. Jesse asked, has anyone linked their Zillow Premier Agent profile to dot loop? And is it worth it? So there was a lot of chiming in, and you saw there were 10 comments here. This was one that Jen Jones actually responded to. Bobby Washaball, who's an agent in Chambersburg, also wasn't aware of this. And Jen wrote back and said, you can link your accounts through your dot loop account by visiting My Account, Account Settings page. Scroll down and click and just follow the directions here. This is the type of advice that you get on Home Sale Loopers, where Jen Jones or Kelly will read one of these questions, and in many instances, they'll be able to fire off an answer right to you. So once again, one little tip here. One of the advantages of doing this is linking your two accounts together is when you close out a transaction in dot loop, it automatically sends something out to the client so that they can post something on Zillow. Here's another one that I consistently get. Does Home Sale have a standard clause for fill in the blank? Or an agent says, I use a specific clause quite often in my agreements of sale. How can I save it for future use so I don't have to recreate it every single time that I have a transaction like this? Well, dot loop has a feature where they have a clause template. Now, a lot of people don't even know that this exists, so I'm going to show you how to get there. This is a screenshot of the top of dot loop. You'll see the reporting, loops, tasks, people, templates icon. What you want to do is click on the templates icon. Then you're going to have the drop-down menu. Now, here's the issue that most people have that don't know that clauses exist. Right about here is the bottom of the page, and you've got to actually scroll down to see the clauses. So when you're doing this and you're pulling it up in your account, make sure that you scroll down and you will see clauses underneath the fold in the page. Once you click on clauses, you will see clauses that the company has provided for you. So for instance, here's a clause which we're getting a lot of now, seller finding suitable housing clause. You can take this and drop it right into an agreement of sale. Now, the beauty of this is that if the company creates clauses, we put them in the clause section and we will share it so that it shows up in everyone's .loop account. However, you as an individual agent, you may over time create your own clause. So if you want to do that, you can certainly do that. And by the way, it's only specific to you. So all you would have to do is go to the little button here that says plus new clause, click on that, and a box will show up and you'll be able to type in your clause, save it, and it's just saved to your clauses in your .loop account. So it's a great tool, especially if there are some clauses that you use time in and time out, and you use it over and over again, and you say to yourself, gosh, where did I put that clause, or what agreement did I put that in? I don't recall. Here's a tip for you. There's a clauses section in .loop. You know, if you've never used it or didn't know it was there, just go through the easy steps that I shared with you here, play around with a little bit. You're going to find you're going to save yourself a lot of time in the long run. So risk management in real estate, and the new reality in 2020 is that we can't ignore risk management. We do a lot of things in this company to try to help not only the company stay out of hot water, but also you and the clients that you work with. Some of these things are fairly evident to you. Other things kind of happen behind the scenes.
Mortgage wire fraud. Don't be a victim like me. When people buy and sell homes, they don't think that wiring money could be risky. They simply follow the instructions given to them by the real estate professionals. But sometimes criminals get access to wiring instructions, and instead of a home buyer's money going towards a home deposit, a down payment, or mortgage payoff, it's wired into a criminal's bank account. This is devastating for the buyers and sellers. I know because it happened to me and almost happened to a client. I feel a deep sense of responsibility to make sure this doesn't happen to other buyers and sellers. That's why I created this video. I'll explain what happened to me, what happened to a client, how criminals exploit the vulnerabilities in a real estate closing, how they steal the money, and what you can do to make sure your money is safe. Here's my story. On December 15th, 2017, I sold my house in Westfield, New Jersey. I'm a real estate agent and closings are a normal part of my job. This one was typical. At the end, the buyer was handed the house keys and the deed. My wife and I received our proceeds. But then something weird happened on January 4th, 20 days after the sale. I received an alert from my bank that a January monthly mortgage payment was made for the house we just sold. I called my mortgage lender and they said they never received a mortgage payoff. How did this happen? How did criminals steal my mortgage payoff without anybody knowing about it? Well, several days before my closing, my attorney asked me to contact my bank to get a mortgage payoff letter. I got the letter, which contained the mortgage balance, the closing date, the name on the account, my mortgage account number, and the wiring instructions. I sent it as a PDF attachment to my attorney. He then sent it to the closing agent. The criminals accessed the payoff letter, changed the bank account number on the wiring instructions, and emailed the title company. The title company didn't verify any of the information. So at closing, they wired $239,000 into the criminal's bank account instead of into my mortgage account. And here's the craziest part. Nobody knew that this criminal act took place until I discovered it 20 days after the closing. So that's my crazy story. But then it gets really bizarre because 2 months later, Something very similar happened to a client. Days before their closing, they received emails from a criminal posing as their closing agent. The fake emails instructed my client to use updated wiring instructions. My client called her husband at work and said he needed to leave the office and go to their bank. He had to wire their $225,000 down payment immediately, otherwise they wouldn't close on time. He went to the bank and filled out the form to wire their money. But moments before handing it to the bank teller, his wife called him and said, "Please wait." His wife wanted to check the account number on the new wiring instructions against the earlier wiring instructions they received from the title company. She checked, and it turned out the numbers did not match. So he did not wire the money based on the fraudulent wiring instructions. They came very, very close to losing their down payment. Who are these criminals, and how do they do it? If I was a bad guy in a faraway country with computer hacking skills, I'd look at real estate transactions in the U.S. as a dream come true. Here's what I'd see. As many as a dozen people involved in the transaction. There are usually 2 buyers, 2 sellers, 2 lawyers in the states that use lawyers, paralegals and assistants in the law firms, 2 real estate agents, assistants at the real estate brokerages, mortgage loan originators, their assistants, loan processors, title company closing agents, settlement agents, escrow agents, and many of these parties work in small companies or on their own. They don't have a sophisticated IT department looking over their shoulder, making sure their websites and their emails are safe from hackers. I'd also see real estate professionals who are super busy and often distracted. They work with a lot of clients and are driven to close as many deals as possible. They work on volume. The more closings they do, the more money they make. And as the closing nears, the pressure builds. There's an onslaught of emails, questions about disclosures and fees and credits. Where is the closing going to take place? What time is it? Will it be delayed? Which documents weren't signed? What new documents need to be signed? Where are the wiring instructions? And many of these emails with these questions CC everyone. Some have attachments. It's hard to keep track. It's frenetic. And this is when the criminals strike. The criminals have hacked into one of the parties' email accounts and have been monitoring the inbox. They're reading and waiting for one particular email, the wiring instructions. When they see it, they'll download it, they change it with their bank account number, and then they send it back out. They will send it from an email address that looks similar to a real party's email address. If the buyer wires their money into the criminal's account, it'll vanish pretty quickly. Some banks require a 24-hour hold, others do not. The money could be transferred into a foreign bank account and then withdrawn and moved into another account. Within a few days, it could bounce around the world well before any of the parties in the real estate transaction even suspect there might have been a problem. Now, these criminals are smart, and they're outsmarting the real estate professionals, the real estate agents, the title company, the banks, and lawyers. The mortgage wire fraud stats from the FBI are frightening. In 2017, $969 million was diverted or attempted to be diverted to criminally controlled accounts, and the average fraud amount is $129,427. How can this problem be solved? Well, there's a potential regulatory fix. Require banks to match the account number to the account holder before clearing a wire transfer. However, changing regulations of any industry is a long-term lobbying effort. Until then, buyers and sellers need to protect themselves. Now, if you're a buyer, here's what you can do. Whenever you receive wiring instructions by email, check the sender's email address. If it's not the same address from an earlier email, or if it's the first time you're receiving an email from this person, be suspicious. Call the company and speak to the sender. And make sure you call the correct number and not the number on the suspicious email. Use the number on a business card or look up the number on the company's website. When you speak with the sender, ask them if they sent the email. If the email isn't from them, it's an attempt to steal your money. Tell the title company, tell your lender, tell your real estate agent, tell your lawyer, and report it to the FBI. And go into www.ic3.gov to report it. If they did send the email, read to them the wiring instructions. Verify the account name, the number, and the amount of money to be wired. If you need to respond to their email, don't hit reply. Instead, hit forward and write the person's known email address. After the money is wired, call the receiving party to make sure the money was received. If it wasn't received, it's imperative to report it immediately. There's a very small window of time that a bank has to recall a wire transfer. A few other things to consider if you're a buyer. Choose a title company that takes measures to avoid wire fraud. Tech-savvy title companies do not accept wiring instructions by email. All wiring instructions are entered directly into a secure portal. Pay the old-fashioned way. Use paper. Pay your deposit and your down payment by a bank check. Purchase an owner's title policy. This adds a layer of protection on top of the mandatory lender's title insurance policy. If you're a seller, you also need to be vigilant. When you receive a payoff letter from your mortgage lender, it will contain wiring instructions. Before you send this to your attorney or the title company, call the person you're sending it to. Verify their email address and tell them to call you as soon as they receive your email. When they call you, ask them to read aloud the wiring instructions. Pay special attention to the account holder's name, account number, amount of the wire instructions, and the bank address. Also, immediately after the closing, call your mortgage lender and verify they received the wire from the title company. These simple steps will help prevent criminals from stealing your money. Thanks for watching.
So let me share some facts with you. And by the way, some of the things that were in the this video were from 2017. These are updated for more current. Americans lost over $150 million in real estate scams in 2019. Fraud has risen over 1,000% since 2018. By the way, since COVID has hit, this has gone through the roof exponentially because people are spending much more time on their computers, not doing, handing things off to people. So home buyers are the #1 victims of malware attacks. We need to protect our clients. We need to make that a top priority. So how can we do that? First of all, here's the biggest problem as I see it, is how do you know when our efforts are working? If you think about that, the only way that we know that everything that we're doing is protecting you is when nothing happens. So it's kind of one of those things that if nothing happens, we just kind of set it aside and say, well, this must not be a big problem because I don't know anything about wire fraud. It doesn't seem to be a big problem with us or me or my clients or the lenders that I deal with or the title companies. Trust me, it is out there. It is out there. I know of local cases here in Lancaster County where real estate agents and buyers and sellers have been scammed in real estate transactions and have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know them personally. So it's real. Don't let your guard down. So what are we doing on a company-wide basis? I'm going to just review some bullet points, some things that we're doing to help protect you behind the scenes. Some of the stuff you don't even know is going on. Networks are protected by the most up-to-date firewalls. We are constantly updating what is on our computers and what is in these firewalls. Any consumer non-public information that is opened on a home sale employee's workstation is done so on a secure encrypted hard drive. So everything is being looked at behind the scenes. We don't even know it's happening. Consumer data that resides on home sale servers or workstations are protected by the following. Once again, these are things that you don't see that happen behind the scenes, but are real and really intercept all these bad guys trying to hack into us from outside. Perimeter firewall and intrusion detection system. Artificial intelligence security that constantly monitors the network for potential threats, and leading next generation security software that monitors for potential threats on an ongoing basis, and they are constantly being updated. How about our emails? Home sale email is hosted on a secure server. Now, I'm going to give you another public service announcement. Everybody has their own personal reasons as to what email address they use. I'm not going to get into that. A lot of people, there's marketing things that are behind it. I need to share with you, though, that if you're not using a homesale.com email address, you better, wherever if it's Gmail, Yahoo, if it's something through a vendor, make sure that you understand what the potential threats are of hacking into your email system. It is real and it is out there. Our home sale email is hosted on a secure server. Our staff and employees are tested on an ongoing basis about email fraud. So our emails are protected. This is at the bottom of every single email that goes out from a homesale.com person. If you're using the address, it automatically appears, and there's nothing you can do about it. It is sent out, every email that I send out to you as, the manager of this office. Anything that our staff sends out, you will see a wire fraud alert notice at the bottom of every single email. How about some things as common and things that we take for granted, like photocopiers? People look at these and we don't even think about this, but they have useful lives. A photocopier, 2 to 3 years on average is how long they last. And what happens after it's done? Usually they are given back to the photocopier place and they are leased out to somebody else as a used copier, okay? Many of these things are not wiped clean. We're very fortunate in that everything that goes through our copiers and scanners, we have something that basically takes that thumbprint and gets rid of it. So you can be assured that if things that you're using internally on our photocopiers, our scanners, they are secure. How about dot loop? A lot of people take dot loop for granted, but keep in mind, it's a very secure online platform. When things are signed electronically, they are signed between the party that you are asking to sign and nobody else. Only those invited to the loop can actually access the file. And by the way, all of these things are backed up to ensure that nothing is lost. I know there are some people out there that say, I still prefer the old pen and ink way. I get it. I've been in situations in the past as a manager of an office that underwent a massive flood, and all our paper records were destroyed. That won't happen if you're using dot loop and everything is put on the system. We consistently as a company hold management seminars and trainings to bring you up to speed on all the things that we're doing, once again, behind the scenes to help you make sure that your clients have the most secure transaction possible. What do our core services do? You saw in that video, make sure that you're working with a title company that uses all these protocols. I guarantee you some of the cases that I just spoke about earlier where real estate agents were involved, there were buyers and sellers that were involved. It was with a reputable title company locally here, actually 2 title companies locally here, that didn't take the time to put protocols in place. Make sure you understand who you're dealing with and what kind of protocols they have. Home sale settlement uses the most current protocols as far as how they communicate all these things that are going back and forth between buyers and sellers. You will see that they never accept emails that changes those wiring funds. They always call and verify numbers and confirm any changes. Once again, their staff is trained on an ongoing basis for phishing emails to make sure that they understand when something comes across their screen, they understand it looks a little funny. How about home sale mortgage? Well, one of the things that had been promoted over I think actually late last year was a mortgage app Home Sale has the mortgage app. All you have to do is either talk to Dan or James about it. They can forward it on to you. A very, very secure app where people can enter information, and it's on a secure network. So it's actually better and more secure than actually a paper transaction. Cinch Home Services. While we don't deal with a lot of wire fraud with Cinch Home Services, one of the things you can do as an agent who's working with a buyer or a seller is talk with them about potentially getting a warranty on the home either during the listing or after the sale. To date, in our company, and this number is just for our company, Cinch has paid out over $250,000 in repair costs for Home Sale. $250,000. That's a lot of broken down water heaters, HVAC repairs, things like that. It takes a lot of risk off of the clients that you're dealing with on an ongoing basis. What do we do as a company? Most of this stuff has actually been ingrained in your head by me. Sorry for being repetitive on an ongoing basis. I just want to remind you, when COVID hit, everybody got caught by surprise. But as you probably are aware in the marketplace, if you went to other real estate companies and entered their buildings, or if you talked with other real estate agents, you had a lot of blank stares. People saying, well, we don't have anything in place. Our company hasn't communicated with us at all. Here are some things that we do on an ongoing basis, and I don't think anything's going to surprise anybody on this call. We had and continue to have optional drive-up settlements. If you have clients that have health issues, please let Home Sale Settlement and Home Sale Mortgage know. We'll do a drive-up settlement. We still have them today, even though they're less common than when they were maybe a couple of months ago. We encourage you as agents and also all our core services to utilize Zoom and FaceTime as meeting options whenever possible. Obviously, we're on a sales meeting right now on a Zoom call. Every one of our offices requires the use of masks in common places. I probably have said to more than one person on this call as I see them walk through the building, oh, how about that mask? I don't do that to berate you. I do it for the health and welfare of the entire office. We have had people in this office contract COVID. I'm trying to keep everybody as safe as possible, okay? Every office provides hand sanitizers. You see them throughout our building in conference rooms, at the front desk. Everywhere that you look, you see those hand sanitizer little canisters. Each settlement room, and I tip my hat to the staff here at North Point, but across all of our offices. When you have a settlement, Janice is one of the first people in that room after the settlement, wiping down not only the chairs, but the tabletops so that it is safe for the next party to come in and utilize. She also occasionally wipes off doorknobs, copiers. Our cleaning services have been instructed to do this. So we're doing everything we can to make you and the clients that visit this building as safe as possible.
Did you know that in 2019 alone, Americans lost over $150 million in real estate scams? When purchasing one of the largest investments of your life, you need to know that your transaction will be secure. At Home Sale Realty, we make protecting your customers a top priority. Our multifaceted risk management strategy starts with our Realty division. Your contract will be created on a secure online platform, signed electronically, and backed up to ensure nothing is lost. Our settlement and mortgage teams go above and beyond to keep your transaction shielded from outside predators. With encrypted emails and secure platforms, they protect you in every way possible. Our company-wide networks are protected by the most up-to-date firewalls, and we hold special fraud trainings to educate our agents on the newest prevention practices to keep you and your money safe. Your future is secure with Home Sale Realty and our Forever Agents. Visit homesale.com to find out more about our security protocols today.
So that video that you saw there is available on our company YouTube channel. Obviously, it takes about 1 minute. It's just promotion, kind of letting our clients and letting the people that are potentially going to be getting involved with us, what kind of systems we have in place. I'd encourage you to post it on your Facebook pages, and other social media network. And finally, our little piece of inspiration. This comes from Bruce Lee. Don't fear failure. Not failure, but low aim is the crime. In great attempts, it is glorious even to fail. If you knew anything about the life of Bruce Lee, he was an incredible athlete. He died way, way too early. But some of the things that he's left behind are just fascinating for somebody who was as young as he was. He put a lot on the table. If you ever have the opportunity to read about him or to look at his life story in one of the videos on YouTube, I'd encourage you to do so. Fascinating individual. That's all I have today, done a little bit early. I hope everybody has a great week. And once again, our next Zoom meeting is not actually a Zoom meeting. I'm going to be washing cars. So I'll wash agents' cars, assistant cars, and staff cars. Don't be bringing family here with pickup trucks and tractor trailers. Have a great day, everybody.